constriction or contraction to make something happen that is already a birthright is itself creates a tremendous amount of suffering. And so in using the notion of shedding as it is in a sense what your teacher said, and I told her stories from the Baal Shem Tov, which resonated in a very similar way, that to realize is to be frank for real eyes, that eyes that can really see. And I love that so much. I still say that today, that if only we could walk around with eyes that are softened and not trying so hard in order to see what's already there. And so a large part of tshuva in the mystical tradition has less to do with an accomplishment of some kind, an acquisition, but a recovery or a discovery of that which is already there. Right. So it's about doing less. It's about softening and seeing what's underneath and accessing something that's already flowing that needs only to be tapped into, instead of having to be cultivated. And the cultivation is less about the production of something, but the recovery of something that's lost. And so there are many levels at which this is happening. And so I think that guilt, let's just talk for a moment about guilt, if we will. I don't know, as a Hindu, if you have to work with guilt, but those in the Judeo-Christian tradition, I know that having started in that tradition, you might know a little bit about guilt. It's something narrative.
I was raised Catholic also.
Catholic, so that's a birthright. So there's nothing you have to do much about it. But as a Jew, also, guilt comes in many varieties. Kind of like Baskin Robbins, and Jewish mothers have like at least 32 flavors of guilt. And it's useful to take a look at how guilt in the tradition of repair or recovery works. A sense that you've fallen short of your own innate, intuitive knowing of what is right and what is good. That the corresponding or commensurate level of indigestion is guilt. Like, that sense of oi. And the one that you owe it to is you owe it to yourself. Meaning, someone once said very well that guilt is an IOU that you have to either pay or rip up. Right? So, when the soul is alive, guilt is a sense of I've digested as food that isn't good for me, and I know I feel it. I feel it in my bones that something is off. And guilt is, in its pristine form, is self-induced. It's a sense of, I'm off. Again, back to the alignment. Something is off. The kind of healthy shame that psychologists talk about is when the self is in bare ass. You've been caught in bare ass. You've caught red face, meaning like there's my own innate sense of my own inner soul's calling is now I'm off. I need in some way to turn to my soul and say, what do you need from me in order to get yourself straight? But the kind of guilt that is destructive and unhealthy and what most people come to rabbis and swamis to heal is the kind of guilt where someone else gave you a sense of what they thought was the way you should behave or the way that you should feel or the way, and you're not living up to that internalized sense of their expectation. The Bible said that you can't do that. I get that a lot, and I have to say, well, why don't we just say what the Bible is? It's a group of men living sometime in the 5th century before the coming era. That's what they thought was right. So, or my parents said so, or whatever it is. And when we have internalized someone else's truth and tried to superimpose it upon our own inner alignment, then naturally we feel the guilt is something that we can't wait to get rid of. Right? If you don't feel that your hamstrings are tight, and not because they're not as loose as somebody else's hamstrings, because that'll never work. Because you'll never ever be able to do yoga. Because every time you do, you say, oh, how do you think my hamstrings feel? You know? Or if I lived up to your ideal of how long my hamstrings should be, you know? And then you'll never ever get there, because there isn't your own destination. It's not the land of your own soul. You've adopted someone else's homeland, and now you're trying to live in their space, but you have your own land, you know? So guilt is useful in as much as it points you back to the place of your own homelessness and how to find your own home. And guilt is destructive if it is someone else's standard. And so that kind of comes back to a basic moral intuition that we all are gifted with as divine creatures of what works and what doesn't work. So much to talk about here, I feel like.
Yeah.
Okay.